Good evening, everybody. Thanks to all, look at this room, it's great. Thanks for braving the elements. This reminds me of growing up in Buffalo, New York, which seems like a lifetime ago, and now I'm such a desert rat in Vegas that if it gets below 50 degrees, I think I'm in the Arctic. So it was fun remembering how to drive on ice this morning. So we'll talk about a different kind of ice in a little bit. We'll get to that. So first of all, I want to thank Phil. He's mentioned this partnership. This has been a godsend for us at the Indy. Phil has been so generous. The Auto Museum has been so generous to host us. We've done some great programs here. And I've been trying to get the senator to do one of these for a long time, and I'm thrilled that she's here tonight. I'm going to introduce her in a second. But first, I want to thank our sponsors. These events would not be possible without our sponsors, and you can see them back here. I won't read the list. We're getting so many now, Phil, that it takes too long to read them all, but you can see them all here. So let's have a round of applause for the sponsors. We at the Indy are very proud of these events. We have done more and more in Reno. Most people don't even know that half of our staff is up in northern Nevada now. We've grown from 6 people sitting around a kitchen table in Carson City launching the Indy in January of 2017 to about 23, 24 employees now. And we would not be as successful without the incredible staff that I have. Some of them are here tonight. Both our events team led by Megan, who was here. Many of you know Megan, and a couple of my reporters are here tonight. Eric and Amy were helping to check people, and they're the backbone. I'm just the pretty face, but you guys already figured that part of it out. We're having another event in Vegas with the governor. I'll be sitting down with the governor, who has sat down with me more than any other governor. It's going to be our 5th sit-down. I think it's going to be in Vegas next month. And then we're having another one I'm really looking forward to with the 2 Democratic candidates for Attorney General, Nicole Cannizzaro and Zach Conine. And they are not exactly bosom buddies, so that's going to be a fun one. And we plan on having God and Phil Willing, I think it's about the same thing, 3 more events here up in Reno at the museum this year. And I'm happy to take suggestions for what any of you might think would be a good events. The Indy has been, I've had a long career in journalism, and the Indy is by far the most fulfilling thing I've ever done. And I say this a lot, and it's not just being glib. It's the one that I've done in my career that has the least to do with me. It really is about the people who work for the Indy, these incredibly bright, hardworking young reporters who have created something out of nothing, and we are now the only statewide news organization. And we couldn't do it without sponsors like this and with donors in here. Raise your hand if you're a donor to the Indy. And as I like to say at these events, if you didn't raise your hand, you can leave. I want to just tell you that if you can just make a small recurring monthly donation to the Indy, or you can make a big one if you want, it helps. This is a very hard time in journalism, as many of you know, and I think we're providing an important service to the state. So that's the end of my pitch, at least up here. I may pitch some of you individually. And so without further ado, I want to bring up Nevada's senior senator, Catherine Cortez Masto. Please give her a round of applause. It's on, I think. I think you have some fans here.
Well, look at this. Do I get to take this home? National Automobile Museum. This is fabulous.
That's
look at this.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Yeah. It's nice to be home.
Now, when she says home, you know, some of you may not know this. She is a UNR grad, you know, we were just talking. Catherine Cortez Masto and I have known each other for more than 30 years. Which is something else, because she looks the same, and look at me. I don't want to date myself too much, but I want to start by telling you that my first job covering politics in Nevada in 1985 was covering her father, Manny Cortez, who was on the county commission. I want to tell a quick Manny Cortez story to get into discussion with the senator. I was assigned to cover Clark County government as a very young cub reporter. And a few months after I was covering the county commission, an editor who had been around a while said, "Don't you think that Paul Christensen, who was also on the county commission with Manny Cortez, is the most influential person on the county commission?" And I looked at him, I said, "Not a chance. Manny Cortez is the most influential." And I'll tell you how I know that. Because with all the debate that took place during these meetings and sometimes squabbling, Manny Cortez would just sit back, and maybe you witnessed this back in the day, and then he would listen, and then he would punch on his mic, and then he would very carefully come up with a solution that bridged the gap between the two. He was an amazing guy to watch. He really was. And this is the political DNA, I think, that you have. And I'm wondering, what did your dad teach you about being an elected official?
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for bringing up my father. He was a fantastic father. Many knew him because he was all over the state, worked and really loved Nevada and worked very hard to ensure that everybody had an opportunity here to succeed. And he was a great father. Although I will say this, he was surrounded by women in our household, including our poodles. They were, his mantra to his two daughters were, "Listen, you may think this is a democracy, but this is not a democracy. This is a dictatorship. I'm the dictator, and you're going to do what I say." And my sister and I, "Okay, Dad." He was fantastic, but he taught me just what you said, that there's always a middle ground, there's a compromise, there's a balance to everything, and you listen to everything. My father, everywhere he worked, he talked to everybody, who knew everyone's name, and he treated everyone equally with the same level of respect. And from when I first started getting into running for office, I never thought I'd run for office as Attorney General or any office. I grew up in it, so I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. People are knocking on your door all days and night, talking about potholes and things that are happening in the community, and you have to be out there all. And when I finally said, no, it's in my DNA. This is how we grew up. It is good government. I believe in good government. I believe in the service and giving back in the community and finding solutions for people and working together, because I watched my father do it. So when I ran for Attorney General statewide first time, I said to him, how do you manage when you have to make a tough decision or you have to make a vote, and there's one side to you that says, no, we want you to vote another way, and there's another side, well, we want you to vote this way. How do you decide? And what he told me, and it's true to this day, he said, you need to be honest with everyone. You need to study it, see both sides of it, and make the vote that's based on what you think is in the best interest of your constituent, your state, whatever it is. But then those people that did not want you to vote that way, you go back to them and you explain why you did. He said, they may not be happy with your vote, but they'll respect you because you told them why you voted that way. Be honest, always honest with them. And that's what I've carried through everything I've done. I think it is important. We don't see that a lot, and it is important to be honest, to explain to why we're doing. I'm sure there's people out there right now not happy with some of the decisions I've made, but the honesty is key. And I do that with my staff. I do it with everybody that I talk to.
You're so eminently reasonable. It's so annoying sometimes. Let me ask you, to lead into the discussion that I want to start with, is how much did your heritage, your grandfather, I believe, was an immigrant from Mexico. How much did that inform your views on immigration as that started to become an important issue? Did it inform your views on immigration?
Absolutely, because when growing up in a state at the time in southern Nevada where I was born and raised, I was third generation. So on my dad's side, they came to Las Vegas in the 40s. My father was born in Las Cruces, New Mexico, but at 5 years old, his parents brought him, and my grandfather's from Chihuahua, Mexico. He came to the United States, served in the military, became a United States citizen, met my grandmother, and then moved to Las Vegas for an opportunity for a good life. He was a baker. My grandmother worked retail her entire life. My similar story in my mother. I'm half Italian, and my mother's family is from Kansas City, Missouri. Again, wanting an opportunity at a better life for their children. My grandparents moved out of Kansas City, Missouri, came to Las Vegas in the 50s when my mom was about 15 years old, and worked hard. My grandfather was a pit boss on the casinos. He started the old Thunderbird Hotel, Last Frontier. I mean, and we have a whole family of folks that have benefited from our incredible service industry in Southern Nevada. And my grandmother, my Italian grandmother, who I'm named after, her dad immigrated from Sicily, came through Ellis Island. So I am a product of their courage to come to this country, their willingness and hope that there's an opportunity here to succeed, not just for yourself, but for your children and grandchildren, and have a better life for the next generation and the next generation. So it is not lost on me, and I know some people think that this is kind of trite, but it is not lost on me. Every time I walk on the floor of the Senate, as one of 100 U.S. senators in the United States, it's a very unique club, and you can only be a senator to walk on the floor of the Senate, it is not lost on me that my grandparents and great-grandparents and my parents, what they did and how hard they worked for me to get to this point, and my sister as well. We both graduated from UNR. We were the first in our family to graduate. It is important for me, and that there's no doubt in my mind, my growing up, one Sunday at my Italian grandmother's house for sauce and pasta and lasagna, the next Sunday at my Mexican grandmother's house for tortillas, chile rellenos, tamales, frijoles, and you're just immersed in not only that family and culture and religion, which was a very big part of my growing up, but who we are and where we came from and how hard we work and play by the rules so that we can succeed. There are families across the country right now who want the same opportunities.
But some of them didn't play by the rules, right? Some of them are here illegally. And I was thinking about this. You had a press conference this week about ICE, and you've become more and more outspoken about what's going on and about guardrails. And I was thinking how uniquely positioned you are to talk about this because of your background. You were a federal prosecutor. You were an attorney general. You're married to a Secret Service agent. You have respect for law enforcement. You were part of law enforcement, and yet there's been a complete breakdown now. And I follow the immigration issue for a lot longer than you've been in the Senate, and it's always been, it seems, both sides are implacable. That one side, been some accusations over the years that the Democrats have just used immigration and they never really wanted a solution but to energize the Hispanic vote. But now it's gotten to the point where people are watching videos of agents, masked agents in the streets. 2 people in Minnesota shot to death under very questionable circumstances in both. You seem, more than all the years that I've known you, truly, truly outraged by this.
How can you not be? How can you not be? It is a combination of what our country is being challenged by right now. And it is lawlessness, it is no respect for our rule of law, no respect for our Constitution or the constitutional rights of others. There is so much at stake at this moment, and it's this perfect storm. It's all coming together. And you touched on this because of my background, how I grew up, because of my law enforcement background, and the fact that I do believe in good government, and government should be working for the people, not against them, or locking them up. There is a role for us to get back to and fight for that kind of balance again, what we want as a country. It is important for me to call it out now more than ever, and I think people feel it. I have to tell you, John, everywhere I go, not just here in Nevada, and I travel throughout the state, urban area, rural, everywhere, there is a feeling of anxiety, there's a feeling of uncertainty, of concern, and it is touching everyone. And that is telling me, like you, and even in my family, people are not happy. There's something going on here that we need to really focus on and address. And what we are seeing happening before our very eyes, when you turn on the TV, peaceful protesters are now being shot by these ICE agents. Peaceful protesters are coming out because they know these ICE agents, these masked men, are coming in, brutalizing communities, and they are not going after the worst or the violent criminals to keep our community safe. They are doing just the opposite. They're doing just the opposite, and they're taking a hard-working individual who came to this country, who's been paying taxes, raising his family, and saying, oh, sorry, you can't stay here anymore, who has not committed any crimes. They have literally, in this state, put pressure on law enforcement officers whose family members are undocumented and threatened them with their careers if they didn't turn their family members over. They have followed, let me just say this, they have followed individuals who have gone to church home, and they're being followed by men with masks. That is not who we are as a country, and that is why we need to fight back.
And it seems to me, and I think any reasonable person would agree with some of the things that you say, some of the guardrails, which you don't just say there should be guardrails, you outlined some of them: targeted enforcement, uphold use of force, no masks, body cameras, no paramilitary police. But one thing that's really upset you, and this is from a recent interview you did, I want to quote you, with the Punchbowl News folks in D.C. You said, the other thing that is so disturbing to me is this idea from really the Supreme Court and Justice Kavanaugh that when it's immigration enforcement, it is okay to racially profile. It is okay because somebody might have an accent, or they may because of the color of their skin. You can stop them and question. That's not okay. Racial profiling is not allowed. It should never be allowed. I don't care what anybody says. I guess what I'm wondering is, why do you think they're doing this? Why? What's the motivation?
Why Donald Trump is sending his national police force? Oh, it is for the very reasons that we are calling it out, to brutalize and scare communities.
To what end? To what end?
To what end? Stephen Miller has a quota. 3,000 individuals that are in this country illegally, he claims illegally, we want you to remove them. You have a quota, you go in and do it. And let me just put this in perspective. When they passed that H.R. 1, their beautiful bill that gave tax breaks to the billionaires, in that bill, the Republicans passed legislation to give Donald Trump $170 billion for ICE and CBP. Now, ICE's normal budget in any annual appropriation is about $8 or $10 billion. They gave him $75 billion without any strings attached. This is the party of fiscal responsibility. They gave him all this money, no strings, slush fund. This administration can do whatever they've done. Yeah, so what have they done over the last couple of years? They onboarded all these agents. Because Stephen Miller had a plan that he was going to create this national deportation force. Didn't care whether you were the worst or the worst, they were coming after you. And we need to have the agents to do that. So now they started onboarding all of these agents, and they're giving them $50,000 signing bonus. They're lowering the standards for bringing these people on, and they're decreasing the time for training. And they're sending them out in mass that go do whatever you need to do. You got a quota. You can go after everyone. You can use your own administrative warrant that you sign yourself or your supervisor signs, and you can go into somebody's private home and search it or go grab somebody in violation of the Fourth Amendment. This is the level of abuse. This is the level of concern that we all have. This is why people are being brutalized. This is unfortunately why we have seen 170 U.S. citizens detained and or deported by this administration. Some have lost their lives. This administration is doing it because Donald Trump wants power. And he doesn't care about states' rights, and he does not care about who he goes after unless they drop a knee to him, unless they follow his lead. Think about this, and just let me, where are these masked men going? In what cities? They're Democratic cities. They're Democratic elected officials that are there. That's where he's sending most of them in. That's where we have seen this brutalization. And I said this earlier in an interview because I said, this is the beginning of Donald Trump not only getting into power, but to retain that power. Because where do you think they're going to send them next? In an election year, in a midterm, where he's concerned he's already losing favorability in this country because he hasn't lowered costs that we're all dealing with right now. And American people, rightfully so, are outraged by the excessive abuse of these ICE agents coming into our community.
So, but let me ask you a question, and I think a lot of people in this room probably feel this way. And one of the reasons Donald Trump came back into office is people were upset. I think it's a cliche and maybe not an accurate one to say there were open borders during the, but it was a different situation then, and people do want the border closed. And so is there even a middle ground here where people can feel, I mean, it's one thing to have these marauding ICE officers with masks abusing civil liberties, but there's got to be some enforcement. You're a former law enforcement person. Don't you agree with that?
I do, and I think that's where my own party and Democrats and even the past administration did not recognize that all of our communities, anybody living in the community, I don't care what party you are, you want a safe community. If something's happening, you want to call 911, you want somebody to respond and take care of you and go after violent criminals. And that includes our immigrant community. Everybody wants a safe community. And yes, we want to secure the border. We don't want drug trafficking, human trafficking, weapons trafficking at the border. Why do I know? Because I was your attorney general and I was working at the border with the AGs from Mexico on those issues. So we want to secure borders. We don't want fentanyl and more drugs coming in. And we've got to talk about it. But the Democrats were too afraid to talk about that because then they were looking like they were too soft on immigrants in general. And I would say to them, no, this is about keeping our borders safe and having an orderly process and a process for immigration that treats people with dignity. My family came here. So many families have come here. We can have a process that does that and still secure our border. We can do both. They're not mutually exclusive. But unfortunately, the last administration, it took them too late, really, to start talking about the border and securing it and shoring it up. And so there was a problem there. And this administration, and listen, Donald Trump, from the very beginning, the first time he ran, this was his issue, and and there was so much rhetoric around it, he denigrated. I mean, he did a horrific job of talking about really true public safety and saying your neighbors are not making you safe because of the color of their skin. He would say Mexicans are rapists, they're drug dealers, they're criminals, they're all coming across the border, they're in our communities, every single one of them are bad. When he got in the second time, they just elevated it to the next level.
Do you think it's racism?
Yes. Listen, absolutely. Not only is it racism, we are now having in our community, these are U.S. citizens, if the color of your skin is brown or you happen to have an accent, they're walking around with their passports because they're afraid they're going to get pulled over and detained. And it's happening. And it's not even just our Latino community. I work on Senate Indian Affairs. I talk with our tribes all the time. Our Native American community is just as afraid, and they're concerned, and they've been dealing with the same issues. It is racism.
So we could spend the whole hour talking about this. I just want to wrap up this discussion by asking a question, and you alluded to this, where these ICE officers have been sent. Do you think, a natural place for ICE officers to be sent under this administration would be Las Vegas. Do you think the only reason that Las Vegas does not have these masked ICE agents is because we have a Republican governor? Is that the only reason?
Listen, part of it may be that we have a Republican governor, but also remember this is a state that supported Donald Trump. And like it or not, he's thin-skinned, he plays favorites, and he just wants people to support him, and he wants that loyalty. And so that there's a combination of things happening, but it is happening in our communities, not at the level you are seeing, but all of the things that I've just talked about, where hardworking individuals who have been here paying taxes, raised their families, have not committed crimes, are getting detained and deported in our communities. That is happening. People getting pulled over, pulled up, talked to because of the color of their skin, that's happening. It's not the deportation force in the level of numbers that we have seen in ICE agents in other places, but is it happening here to some extent? Yes.
Have you talked to the governor about it?
I have not talked to the governor about it.
You don't have his number? Do you want me to give you his number?
I do have his number.
Okay, all right.
I do have his number. But I have talked to our, because of my background in law enforcement, I have talked to our law enforcement representatives. I have talked to our faith-based community. I have talked to our immigrant community. I have talked to our businesses and small businesses about how we all come together to protect our neighbors and friends and stand with them because there is a fear. I have talked to, listen, we've got labor unions out here. We've got skilled labor out here. We've got the trades. We've got culinary union. They are actually helping their own members who are afraid to come out of their homes because of the color of their skin, so they're not going to work. And so they're figuring out how they get them groceries and food. There's a level of fear that has kept people away from churches, away from school, away from businesses, in their homes. And particularly for kids who are concerned that if they go to school, when they come home, their parents will not be there because they have seen that happen. We've had a father driving his daughter to school. They stopped him, pulled him out of the car, and took him away. It is happening in our state, just not at the levels we're seeing when we turn on the TV like Minneapolis and Chicago.
You don't have to be someone who is crazy and follows politics 24/7 as I do.
I'm glad you called yourself crazy. We all talk about that. Yeah, okay.
It's out there in the open now. I guess what I'd say is that even laymen can look to Washington and see the total dysfunction, the polarization, how frustrating it must be. And now Democrats are holding up the DHS budget over this issue, but DHS does a lot more than that, so you're kind of between a rock and a hard place on that. Do you have any hope that this dysfunction is going to somehow be healed at some point? Because otherwise, especially in an election year, Senator, people are just looking for political advantage, are they not?
No, I have the hope, and what we are seeing right now across the country, the Americans have had enough. If you are looking and talking to individuals, it's not just the cost of things. Groceries have increased year over year, by $300 for individuals. We have high groceries. We have affordable housing issues. People are dealing with job issues, not being able just to have one job, but now it requires two jobs. So there's a cost of living issue for, I call it affordability. The president doesn't want to talk about that anymore, but it is an affordability issue, and it is real. No matter how much the administration, whether it was under the past administration or this one, want to talk about the economy and inflation and all of the above, it is real and it's happening here. Part of that has to do also with the policies of this administration when it comes to blanket tariffs. Blanket tariffs have decimated this country.
How did you do that seamless segue into tariffs?
I know, you got me talking.
That is very impressive.
But that's the point, and I say this because people don't connect the dots. Think about it this way, and I was talking to some folks about this. When you send these henchmen, these individuals to brutalize communities, you're not only brutalizing the individuals there and the families, and both physically and mentally, you are having an impact on those businesses and the revenue generation. And if that were to happen in Nevada, particularly in southern Nevada, where we all know our tourism and travel industry is the gold standard, is the revenue generator for our state, it would decimate travel and tourism. It's already being impacted by the tariffs. We've seen a decrease in travel and tourism, not just in Nevada, but internationally, right? Our national visitor is not coming here. It's $1 trillion industry, and we've seen a decrease because of the tariffs, because of the rhetoric of this administration, and because of the policies they've passed, the visa policies for now international travelers to come into this country. They are now looking and requiring international travelers to give them 5 years background of their social network, their social media net background of 5 years, so that they can go back and investigate. It is not only is it having a devastating impact on that international traveler, we are seeing it playing out now in our communities, in jobs, right, in revenue, and the impact. And now you add the immigration piece to that, because it's not just the brutalization of communities when these ICE officers come in, but now there's the workforce we are missing. We are missing that workforce that was a key part of our service industry.
You know, my original question was about the dysfunction in Washington. I don't know
Well,
how
that's
you
what I'm
did that.
talking about.
Have you been talking to Mark Amaday? He's the only one I thought who could do the whole circular thing and come back.
I just got the phone with Mark.
But seriously, I guess, I mean, Americans now are watching this impasse, government shutdown. And by the way, why did you flip-flop on government shutdowns? I mean, you got some blowback from some of your friends on the left when you split with the Democrats a few months ago, and now you're thinking shutdowns are okay. Did you change your mind? Did you capitulate to political realities? She's not going to say yes. But seriously, what's the difference?
No, but you did call me ambitious. What was that you said? I did capitulate because I was ambitious in listening to the left. I think you said that on MSNBC.
I don't remember saying that.
Yeah, I remember. But here's the deal. Here's
Video-
the truth.
video or it doesn't
Here's the
exist.
truth not coming from a talking head who thinks he knows what I'm thinking. I'm going to tell you the truth.
Okay.
When we came to that first shutdown, we weren't at a level where we are on the immigration and with ICE. That hadn't passed yet. The big beautiful bill, HR 1, hadn't passed yet. But we were in a different environment. We hadn't appropriated any bills yet. We also were dealing with a situation where DOJ had come through and knocked out a lot of the staff, a lot of the agencies. This administration was going into trying to terminate all of these agencies. And so going into a shutdown, which I do not support, because I think, again, I believe in good government. I think we should be doing our jobs. We should be appropriators. We should keep government open where we can and fight the fights where we need to on bad policy. I thought we could do that with this. We could keep the government open and still fight for health care in this country. I also know that by shutting down the government, it would have a devastating impact on our economy in Nevada, our service industry. People would lose jobs. Our organized labor who work out at the test site, many of our military men and women who are in this state, from Nellis Air Force Base to Creech to Naval Air Station, are going to be impacted. It would have a negative impact for so many people working here. And our industry. We had just come out of COVID. And trying to come back in and getting strong again. And this was one of those areas where I didn't think a government shutdown was going to be beneficial. It would harm more than help. And the other part of this was the fight we wanted to win was on the Affordable Care Tax Credit. I knew that we would not win that. We could not force the Republicans for two reasons. One, there's not one Republican that ever even voted for the Affordable Care Act. So how are you going to get them to vote for a tax credit of the Affordable Care Act? Two, they're still fighting to roll back Roe versus Wade and women's abortion rights. They wanted to put the Hyde Amendment into the Affordable Tax Credit legislation, which would prevent federal dollars from being utilized for women's reproductive rights. But most importantly, people, this is in the weeds, and I'm going to tell you, because the tax credits are in the tax code, it would be the first time they would be able to take the Hyde Amendment and put it in the tax code. I knew this because I talked to my Republican colleagues and worked with them, and it became very clear to me when the government was shut down, and I was part of those negotiations, how do we open it up, it was very clear to me they were not going to vote for any ACA tax credit unless they could do those things. It was not going to happen. No Democrat's going to vote for it.
You don't regret that vote, then?
Not at all. Not at all. Because let me tell you, and this is how serious it is. Listen, I also know that I have to represent this entire state. And some of the battles that we are going to be taking, this was a tough vote for me because this is a battle that I wanted to be in to take on this administration. This is one battle, whether we win or lose, is not going to make a difference. The war really is the end game of the election, the midterm. We have to win the midterm. But this was going to be one of those battles. But I knew going into this battle, people in Nevada would be harmed. I could not I could not see trading one harm so that we can help others. That's not how this should work. And then finally, I'm going to share something with you that most people don't even know. In the heat of the shutdown, I was hearing from so many people in Nevada, because a lot of people I talk to, I give them my cell phone. I got texted from one of our trade reps in one of our building trades, who told me that one of his members had lost his job because he'd worked out at the test site and he was furloughed. His wife, who was going to a new job out there, got sent home because she lost her job, and she later committed suicide. Now, to know or even think that a decision that you make, listen, obviously there's other issues going on, this woman with her and her mental health, but part of you thinks, wow, had the government not shut down, would she still be alive? Those are tough, real life decisions, and they're not easy. They're not easy. That was then, this is now. 96% of the budget is appropriated. None of those budgets are shutting down. Those workers, people are going to be working. We're going to have jobs. And the fight is over Homeland Security. This is a moment when you've got to be strategic and pick those battles. This is a battle that we have to win and fight, because what we are seeing in our communities that we've just talked about, the brutalization is un-American, it's unheard of, and people's lives are at stake.
You think you're going to win? You think the caucus will stick together?
The caucus, no doubt, will stick together. The question will be whether the White House will capitulate or come to talk with us. And what I am hearing is I am part of the caucus, and the conversations that are taking place, they're not willing to. And let me just put this in perspective. These aren't that we are asking is nothing unusual and nothing out of the ordinary. It is what our local law enforcement and state already do. They already do it. In 2017, 2018, you know this, John, the legislature, under Republican Governor Sandoval, passed legislation so that all of our law enforcement wear body cameras, and specifically prescribed that they had to develop policies and procedures around that. And it has been beneficial, not only for the law enforcement officer, but for the community. So what we are asking is not unreasonable, and what the American people want is not unreasonable, and it's common sense, and it's about public safety and community trust. It clearly, if the White House doesn't even agree to that, they have another agenda. And we should be concerned what that agenda is.
What do you think it is?
Well, we already know. It is to brutalize communities, control.
And do you think there's going to be troops in the streets during the election in November?
I have concerns that he's going to send ICE agents out. Let me just put this in perspective. Why would the head of the Central Intelligence Agency show up in Georgia to take those election records? What on earth is the head of the intelligence agency doing there? And why is Kristi Noem, head of Homeland Security, saying for the first time that elections and election integrity is part of protecting our homeland? That's not true.
So they're laying the groundwork for that.
Of course. And if they're not, we better be prepared for it.
You've called for some members of his cabinet, the president's cabinet, to resign. Are there any members of his cabinet you don't think should resign?
At this juncture, no.
Yeah, okay. I want to ask you about another serious topic that well, we're about halfway done, and there's a lot more I want to cover. One thing that I remembered, and I've been thinking about this a lot, that you did as AG and has been an important issue to you, is crusading against sex trafficking, human trafficking. It's been an important issue to you. And I think what's been lost in all of the hoopla, as it were, about the release of the Epstein files and all about, is that these survivors, you've seen some of the press conferences, it's tragic. There's a human tragedy that occurred, and in the effort to get political one-upsmanship, I think some of that has been lost. I'm really wondering about your take on all of that.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up, because I think people forget, they see the political side of it and the politics. Oh, got to get more information, this will hurt Donald Trump, this will hurt, but But what they're forgetting is the victims and the young people, the young girls that were exploited at the hands of Epstein and his Epstein class, his billionaire class, all of his friends. And they're still living with it. And every time we talk about it, every time we release something, they're still living with it. We have not given them closure. We have not put them on a path to survivorship like we have done with the work that we have done here in the state of Nevada. And why shouldn't we demand not only all of that information, that transparency, accountability, who was involved, let's hold them accountable for sex trafficking of young girls, exploiting them at a very young age. Hold them accountable and help them get on that path to survivorship. That's what they're looking for. And let me finally say this, because this is why I'm so frustrated with this administration and the people around them. I have not said this publicly, maybe one time. Pam Bondi knows better. She knows better. I was an attorney general with her. We worked on these issues together. She knows better, and she needs to do better.
But she was the Attorney General of Florida when a lot of this stuff was going on. So what makes you think she knows better?
Because we work together on sex trafficking laws and the exploitation. She understands the issues when it comes to the victims and what is at stake here. She knows better, but that goes to show you, at the end of the day, people that want to play politics with it and actually use it to their benefit are more so willing to do that and cover it up than they are to call it out, bring accountability, stop it from happening, and help the victims.
Have you talked to Bondi directly about
I
it?
have not.
Well,
She's not. I'm not on any of the committees right now where she comes before me, unfortunately. But I have not talked to her.
So
about it.
I want to switch gears a little bit. Some people in here may not know that you are the leader of something called the Mod Squad. Mm-hmm. Now, first I got to ask about the name. I mean, I get the clever play, it's moderate, but not to date both of us, but did you ever watch the Mod Squad when you were a kid?
I did. No, I just dated myself. I did, of course.
You watched it, and by the way, once I started doing some research into this, I can't get the theme song out of my head, but that's a different issue. But they were hippies, they were hipsters, and that's not what the message is that you're trying to send with this group. And I guess there's only 11 members now, right?
Yeah, if you think of the swing states, because that's our focus. That's who.
So what do you expect to accomplish? I mean, really substantively accomplish. Because we've already talked about the question you didn't answer that I asked you, which is if there's any hope for the dysfunction in Washington. You are, and I'll say it again, you are an eminently reasonable person. You're the perfect person to be the head of a group like this. But do you really think you can accomplish anything?
Yes, because let me answer this question and your first one at the same time is it's about elections. It is. To win the Senate and to flip the Senate, it's through these swing states. We have to win those swing states. And to win those swing states, you need moderate candidates who appeal to a wide variety of people from various backgrounds. We know this now in Nevada. You know it better than anyone. John, we have seen our voter registrations increase for nonpartisans, more so than Democrats and Republicans. And if you want to win here, you've got to get out and talk to everybody. We can't win in Nevada just with a base of Democrats. We have to be engaged. We have to listen to people, talk about the issues, listen to what they're concerned about, and talk about how we solve those problems. That is true for every swing state, Arizona, Michigan, that are part of this, New Hampshire, North Carolina. I mean, there's a number of places that we are in right now. So the goal is to support our incumbents and then pick up some of those moderate candidates that will be successful in those other states. Why is that important? Because we need to flip the Senate and we need to flip the House if we're going to be a backstop to this administration. And once I say there's battles along the way, that's the war. That's the big one. That's where we have to win.
But don't you think, Senator, that there may be some people in this room who feel this way, although they won't reveal this to you tonight, but who think that having the Democrats back in control, there's all kinds of problems with that too. Like, who wants to put you guys in control?
So how could we be any worse than what's dealing with right now? We have let me just say, We have Republicans who literally are not even doing their jobs. They've abdicated the role of Congress to Trump, to the executive
Do you talk to
branch.
your Republican colleagues about this? Like, do they
Yes.
talk differently in private than they do in public, where they're
Yes.
so deferential and even enthralled to Trump? Do they talk differently to you?
Very few have the courage to stand up that you see, but there are a few, yes, that we talk, but there's a fear factor. There's a fear of retribution from Donald Trump. There's a fear of retribution from those in his orbit. And so that is real. Let me just tell you, that is true. Let me put it in this perspective. Coming from Nevada, where I grew up on the Las Vegas Strip and family working there where we had the mob, I know a shakedown when I see it. That is what is happening with this administration. And they're sending their people out, whether they are the head of the FCC or the CFTC and others, and they're shaking down businesses. They're fear-mongering. They are saying people should be disciplined for using the First Amendment rights. I mean, my gosh, I'm on the banking committee, so I'm going to talk about this a little bit. This drives me crazy. The independence of our Fed is so important. This Trump administration wants to take that over. They want control. And now you have the Federal Reserve Bank just put out a study that showed that Donald Trump's tariffs, the bulk of the impact of those tariffs are by U.S. businesses and consumers are paying the price for that. And this administration disagreed with it, so they sent their economic advisor out, Kevin Hassard, to say the people that wrote that report should be disciplined by the Federal Reserve. This is a guy who wants to now be in charge of the Federal Reserve. So if you don't know a shakedown is happening at all levels, it is. And they're putting their people in place. That is what is at stake in this country right now, and it demands our attention. It demands us to understand it and get out and vote, and elections matter. Elections matter. And that's why, for me, and part of the mod squad, it's just moderate senators. It's what I have said is there's enough room for us in the Democratic Party. There's enough room for us as progressives and moderates in the Democratic Party. And we should go into those states where we can win as moderates and lift them up just like we would a progressive. But we also have to do no harm to one another. We have to understand what the American public wants and fight and solve those problems, not what we think they want. And the Mod Squad is lifting up those senators and those swing states to say, who are your constituents? What do they care about? Because if they care about safe communities and lowering costs in this country, that's pretty much what most Americans care about. And that's where we should be focused to solve problems.
So, a few other topics, and you've become pretty good at filibustering. I'm very, very, very impressed. Let me ask you about elections, since you mentioned it. And this has been a thing that's frustrated me. I've covered politics in this state, as you know, for a long time, since 1986, dating myself. And one thing you have to believe in the foundation of democracy, that elections, when someone wins, they win. When someone loses. And so what happened since 2020 with the questioning of the elections, with no evidence, including in Nevada, as you know, can you say to this audience that you believe that Nevada elections are secure? And are you concerned? Are you concerned that because of the importance of the election for governor, which is being looked at here, that there's not going to be some mischief here?
Hey, yes, not only can I tell you that, I know it from firsthand. Our elections here are safe and secure. They are safe and secure. Why do I know that? Because as your Attorney General for 8 years, I was part of an election task force with the FBI and our Secretary of State. And we actually monitored the elections, and anytime somebody tried to vote that shouldn't be entitled to vote or register and shouldn't have been entitled to register, we not only found out who they were, we held them accountable and took action against them. And I can tell you, in the 8 years that I was part of that task force with our Secretary of State at the time, probably on one hand, maybe two, the amount of people that were fraudulently voting. It is literally not happening, but is a perfect example of a Republican Party trying to claim the fraud exists so they can prohibit people from voting. And why would they want to do that? So they can stay in power. That is what we are fighting in this country.
You think voter ID is a bad idea?
Listen, I don't think we need voter ID. I just told you. We have safe and secure elections.
Did you vote for it here?
Not the first time it came around,
Yeah.
no, because I know. But listen, if somebody thinks that they need some sort of ID, and I have explained it in my family, you don't need it. You show your ID when you register. We have the ability with electronics right now to figure out when people vote, how they vote, if they're voting here and in other states, if everybody's working together with the system and the system works. Yes, we are stopping that. It is not happening at a level that people want to claim it is. But it makes sense to people. Well, maybe people should have ID. I understand that. But the way the system is set up, no, it's not happening.
So we have about 10, maybe 15 minutes left, and you've been really gracious with your time, and I appreciate it. I want to try to cover some other topics. One of the worst things, in my opinion, that has happened that Trump has done is he has appointed someone who is not only unqualified but dangerous to be the U.S. Attorney of this state, Sigal Chattah, who one judge has said is serving illegally. And I know that you've been very strong about that too. It's dangerous to have her there, Senator, isn't it? And now you have someone who is very well qualified, George Kalessis. I'm sure you've known him. You've been around for a while. He's a very, 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 very well-respected lawyer. Why won't you and Jackie Rosen just say, he's great, let's get him through? Instead, you're doing your usual, let me say it again, eminently reasonable thing and saying you're going to take your time. I mean, Kalessis would be great, wouldn't he?
Well, the role, and this is true for any U.S. attorney other than what we have seen, a U.S. attorney who has come out and basically said she's going to use the office to the benefit of this administration, right? And to me, that's a weaponization of the U.S. attorney's office that we do not need, and that should never happen. I worked in the U.S. attorney's office. I have a lot of respect for it and respect for the work that is done in the rule of law. But anybody that now we should be looking at that we want to take seriously, they should go through a process. Just like the first time Trump came around and we put Nick Trutanich in, Dean Heller. And how that process works is they come in and talk. I want to talk to them. I want to talk to them about
Do you know George?
Oh, sure. But I knew Nick Trutanich too because he worked in my office as Attorney General. I put him, believe it or not, I put him in there because he was Adam Laxalt's pick to be his first assistant.
Right.
So I said, hey, I'll help you with the transition. A month before I leave, I'll put him in. That way you got one person there already and you can transition through. So I knew him from that. I didn't know him as well because I never really worked with him. So part of it is I want them to come in and talk to me. I want them to say, as U.S. attorney, answer my questions, have tough questions for them. I want to know whether they're going to weaponize the office. I want to know whether they're going to protect our elections or are they looking out for the best interests of Donald Trump. There are so many things that we now need to ask because those questions that we have asked individuals before us as senators who have the ability to have these nominees come before us and ask these questions, oftentimes they tell us one thing when they're in the office with us and the second a different thing when they're actually on the record. And they will not say anything outside of fealty and support to Donald Trump.
What's the earliest that Kalessis could be confirmed? What's the timeline, like best case?
Well, the best case will be we're in recess right now. We get back next week. We're going to have him come into the offices and have those conversations. And from there, we will let the White House know, and it depends on how quickly the White House moves.
Well, let me talk to you, since you are so interested in tourism, the gaming industry, a couple of issues. You have expressed concern about prediction markets. And the effect on Nevada and the effect on the gaming industry. This is uncharted territory in terms of how you're going to regulate that. You have the head of CFTC saying the states essentially can't regulate them. You have the Gaming Control Board here very, very concerned about this. Has just exploded out of nowhere in the last year or so. What's going to happen with that? What should happen? Well,
what should happen is the CFTC should respect states' rights. I can't think of a better regulator around gaming and sports wagering than state of Nevada. Our Gaming Control Board, Gaming Commission, we're the gold standard. This is how it should be done. And the federal government shouldn't come in thinking that they should preempt it or lower the bar. There's a dual role that can be worked out, but states' rights should be respected in this case. There are some states that don't even allow wagering. There are some states that don't want it. And now the federal government's going to tell people they can go into those states? This is a federal government that respects states' rights allegedly when they rolled back women's right to abortion. But now they don't respect states' rights? And keep in mind, the CFTC, which regulates derivatives, commodities and derivatives, traditionally has said these prediction markets are illegal and enforce them and push back against them. Most of the prediction market, because they've exploded, it's all around sports wagering now. Kalshi, most of the sports wagering is about 90% of what they do is sports wagering.
Yeah.
The sports wagering and sports betting, they should be regulated by the states. That's the law. Federal government doesn't have a role there. But this administrator, again, wants to jump into this market. I wonder why. I wonder why, because maybe Donald Trump's kids are doing some advising to Polymarket and Kalshi. I wonder why. Maybe some of the Trump folks are making money.
You don't think that's just a coincidence?
Or some of the folks, yeah, it must be. So when I say that these regulators are doing the bidding of this administration, that's what you see happening. And then let me put one final piece on this. Polymarket, which has been one of these prediction markets that's been overseas. Now they're trying to come back to the United States. We've kept them out. Now they're coming back. There's a national security component to this when it comes to insider trading. Right before this administration decided to go to Venezuela and take Maduro out, there was a bet on that Polymarket about the timing and whether this administration would actually go in and remove the president of Venezuela. 6 hours before our president took that action, somebody went on that Polymarket, that predictions market, and made a bet, right? $30,000, $40,000,
Yep.
that this president would take him out. 6 hours later, it happens, and this person makes $400,000. So if you don't think insider trading or national security issues are implicated in any of this because people can make money off of it, then I got a bridge to sell you. I mean, there is an issue here that we need to look at it for national security reasons, for consumer protection reasons, but for states' rights issues as well. This is a problem that needs to be addressed. There is a role for Congress and our federal government to play.
Okay, I just have a few more questions, so you're going to have to be brief, and I'll be brief too,
Okay.
okay? Otherwise, if I don't let you out of here soon, your staff will kill me. So, real quickly, and I admit a conflict of interest on this question because my wife would not let me come back home if I didn't ask about this. She's a professional poker player, and she thinks that this thing that they put in there about changing the gaming deduction from 100% on losses to 90%. First of all, it makes no sense, even if you're not a professional poker player. What is going on with that? Why can't you get them to back off of that?
Well, first of all, let's explain how it came about.
Yeah,
To help pay for the big, beautiful bill,
that's
HR1.
right. That's right.
They need to find money. So one of my colleagues, who again doesn't have gaming in his state, decided, hey, let's do this. Instead of letting them deduct 100%, let's only let them deduct 90%. And that way we'll make some money, and that will help cover the cost of this bill that we're paying for billionaires. When that came out, because the Republicans wrote the bill, not even Republicans knew it was in there. We surely didn't, because we didn't see the bill till just before they called the vote. So the vote happens, there's an outcry, rightfully so, and it's my Republican colleagues are, wow, we didn't know this was in here. So who comes knocking on my door, the first one? Who likes to play poker after dark? Ted Cruz.
He does.
I got a bill. Join me, Ted. Let's go do it. And so we now are trying to get that done on the Senate side, and the House is doing their bill. We are working together. I have talked to Jason Smith on the House side working with our colleagues, both Dina Titus and Stephen Horsford. We've got to move both of them. It actually has to start on the House and come up to the Senate side, but this is a priority for us to get done.
Are you optimistic it's going to get done?
I am, because we just got to have the vehicle to put it in and move it. Because I have been told by the senator who put it in that he won't like it, but he won't stop it.
Well, that's good news. So just a few political questions, and then we'll wrap it up. So I noticed in that interview with Punchbowl, and maybe this was just glossed over, you didn't even commit to running for re-election in 2028. Are you running for president? Because everyone else seems to be in your party.
Yeah, isn't that true? We're going to have to talk about that. Who's coming through? I need to know.
Do you like what you're doing?
I do. I love working on behalf of the state of Nevada. It's.
So you're running for re-election.
The reason why I answered it the way I did is because it's 3 years away, and I'm focused on where we need to be right now. I don't want people to think that everything I do is just because I'm thinking about a re-election. That's not the case.
Okay.
Right now, the focus is let's meet the moment where we are and work on behalf of this
I walked into
state.
that one knowingly, but just in case you got lax at the end here. You have any favorites for the Democrats? All of them who are running for president, and like 6 or 7 or 8 of them have been in Nevada in the last. Are we going to be first?
Yes, we better be first. We're fighting for it.
You
Why
think we'll
shouldn't
get
we
it?
be first?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
We should be first. Again, I don't have to tell you, this state is a microcosm of the rest of the country. I mean, we've got so much here, so much diversity. If you are a candidate that comes here and you can connect with everybody, you're going to be more successful across the country.
You have any favorites?
I'm not going to tell you that.
I didn't think you would. I didn't think you would. All right. We've already gone a little bit over time, and I appreciate your staying late, but I have to finish with this. Some people in this audience may not know that you're already in leadership. I think it's vice chair of the outreach. Is that what the title is? Does that mean anything? No, I'm kidding.
Well, let me just say Bernie Sanders is my colleague that joins me in that.
So I'm really curious about this, and because obviously you had a lot of respect for Senator Reid, whose place you took, and he took a very methodical path to becoming the Democratic leader. He was the head of the policy committee, and then he became whip and assistant leader, and then became the leader. Are you interested in becoming the Democratic leader at some point?
I'm interested in ensuring that as a caucus, that all of our voices are.
Oh, come on, you're not going to do that.
No.
Come on,
I'm
don't
going to
do
tell
that.
you this.
Come on, it's the last question. You
I
can be
know.
direct.
Let me just say it this way, because I have to say it 2 ways. First of all, I think our caucus, we need to do a better job of listening to everybody that we represent, all the Democratic parties, and figuring out how we have a message that resonates for everyone. There's enough room for all of us. And to me, that's why the leadership that I am in gets me at the table to be a part of that conversation with my colleagues who come from different backgrounds and different sides of the party, whether you're left-leaning or more moderate. It is important to be at that table. And that's why I am part of the leadership.
What about
Do I
if the
want
head-
the big job?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
You've thought about it. Just admit it.
No, listen, I've thought about it, but it is like herding cats. It is a tough job. It is, and I've watched, I obviously wasn't there with Senator Reid, but I've watched Schumer. It is a tough job. You have senators, and let me just say, are there any judges in the, I like judges, right? When you get into your robe and I control this fiefdom, you have senators from the states. This is my state. You can't tell me what to do. I got to do this representation. So we're all equal. And we have chosen somebody to lead us. But he's got to listen to all of us and figure out how to manage to move that forward. It is a tough job. I have enough gray hair. Let me just put it that way.
So you don't want the job?
Not right now.
Well, of course not right now. That's not. Oh boy, she's still got the lawyerly thing going. I mean, it is herding cats, but you are. I mean, let's bring this full circle. You're a person who is known for being bipartisan, for working behind the scenes with Republicans, for wanting to find the best solution. Isn't a person like you the kind of person that should be leading the Democrats in the Senate? How's that?
I don't know. You guys tell me. Is that who it should be? Let me end with this.
Okay.
One, because I did this for you, now you have to do something for me.
Okay.
I have your book, if you would sign it for me.
Have you read it?
I have. Well, halfway through.
Okay.
It's actually really good.
Well,
I didn't know the
thank
stuff
you.
about Howard
Good thing.
Hughes, too. That was very interesting.
That was something,
I like
right?
that, yeah. If
Thank
you haven't
you.
read it yet. It's very, very good. But let me also leave you with this, because most people don't know this, and it was the conversations that I have with some of my colleagues, Republican colleagues. Jerry Moran and I get along really well. He's a great guy. We've traveled on Codels together. We have a lot of bills together. And he approached me outside of the Senate floor, and he said, do you know this John Ralston? And I said, yeah, why? And he said, oh, I have this book he wrote on Harry Reid. He goes, it's incredible. He said, I read the whole thing. It's one of the, I'm not saying this because you've asked me to talk to you. He said, it's one of the best written books that I have seen on a biography. He said, and he's written another one. And I said, yeah, he wrote one, I think it was on, he said, it was one of your governors. I said, yeah, Governor Gwynn. He goes, I'm getting it. He went out and bought that book.
Wow.
And then on the floor of the Senate said, I read it. And it was just as good as well. So you should know you have fans on the other side of the aisle who now know who you are, but your abilities.
Spread the word, Senator. I
I'm
really
going
do
to.
appreciate
I'm
that.
going to.
Senator, thanks for being here.
Thanks,
I really
you guys.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Phil, come on up.